So I came up with the idea for a novel that I really wanted to write about 2 years ago, and it's kind of just sat in a file on my computer since then. And this year I decided I would really like to write a first draft, and my intention with it is to self-publish. I don't really have any interest in traditional publishing because I like the idea of the process of self-publishing, of like learning all the elements to it. I like the idea of marketing it and trying to build something out of nothing. But before I can do any of that, I have to write at least the first draft of the book. And I've been feeling really stuck. Now, I love the character and the setting that I created. I didn't mind the story, but I just got to a point, I'd written about 8,000 words, and I just got to a point where I thought nothing I did seemed to make me want to work on this story, and I couldn't really understand why, because I didn't know what was wrong. So because I was stuck in my story, I decided to use this book. I only got it last year, I think, Save the Cat Beat Sheet Workbook, to help me develop and structure the story that I had in mind. And the idea was that that would help me figure out what was wrong and open up the door to writing. The problem is this book's really ugly and I don't want to write in it. So I wanted to create a space where I felt I could write notes and make things pretty and just kind of give this project a place to live for all the things in my head. So that's when I created this. This is my story notebook. So it's just a classic moleskin notebook that I am altering, I guess, because I'm having to put sheets between the pages because they're too thin, and using washi tape and tabs to just make it nice and pretty. And every page has a purpose. So we've got character development, we have a story, we have other characters, we have elevator pitch. What I found really interesting was, as I was making this, and it took a whole day to make, like I think I did it on a weekend or something, but as I was sticking and gluing and writing, I had this voice in my head, this critic. Let's call him Allan, don't know why. And he just kept saying things like, this isn't writing, you are procrastinating. What about that album you're going to make? Why are you doing this instead of that? And it was really hard because every time I went to it, I was enjoying it, I was having a really good time, but Allan kept popping up and nagging me. But I dug my heels in and I kept working on this notebook. And the next morning, something really interesting happened. I woke up the next morning with an idea for a short story. Now, this short story had nothing to do with this novel. It was in a completely different setting, completely different characters. Not the same at all. But I wrote about 1,600 words of that story in one sitting, and it was just pouring out of me. And I was enjoying it so much. I was loving writing it. And I remember as I was working on it thinking, why can't I enjoy writing this novel in the same way I'm enjoying writing this particular story? And that was when I realized what was wrong with the novel that I was working on. I love writing observational pieces from life. So I like taking realistic characters and worlds that I have experienced or seen or heard about and drawing them into fiction and kind of embellishing them. But I think my main strength lies in taking real life moments and elevating the meaning in those moments. The novel that I had, the previous plot, was fantasy, magical realism, which I love to read, but I couldn't feel it in here because it didn't have that realness, that truth to it that I like writing about. And so I was thinking, well, how do I write this novel now? Because I can see what I like to write and what I'm good at writing. How do I draw that over? And out of nowhere, a memory of a different story with the same character in the same setting popped into my head that I had obviously shelved. And I knew instantly that this was going to work. And I started writing about 2,000 words of that. I was like, yeah, I'm excited for the rest of this story. I can write the rest of this book. I know it's going to be hard, it's not going to be easy, there are going to be days when I'm not going to want to, but that kind of blocker, that real sense of I do not know how to follow through with this anymore, lifted. And I just felt like, yeah, I know where I'm going with this now. And Allan never said a word after that first short story. He hasn't been back since. Not in regards to this particular project anyway. He'll crop up elsewhere. So I thought I would show you the beat sheet pages that I created. This is quite messy because, as you can see, there's a lot of scratching out and rewriting because I changed my mind a lot of times. But I decided that even though the notebook was going to be pretty, you know, I'm not a pretty writer. But what's really exciting is this is the Save the Cat beat sheet. If you haven't heard of that, it's a tool to structure your story. It's used in screenplay writing. There are loads of videos and information about that out there you can find. I'm not going to go into the detail of that right now, but there are 15 beats here and you basically just have to write 1 to 2 sentences on each. And now I have this, I feel like I have somewhere to go with what I'm doing. I think my biggest takeaway from this, of getting unstuck on whatever you're working on, is stop fighting what you're working on and play. I was just sticking things in a book. I was using washi tape and paper and just having fun with the project in mind, but no pressure to do it. And I think sometimes you need to just go and do something else. Yeah, I think my takeaway is find what is fun. It doesn't have to be horrible. The second I started writing in the style that felt right, everything else felt right. I think another thing that I figured out without really understanding it was that I was trying to conform my novel, it's probably more a novella, but I was trying to conform it to what I thought you should write about. And this is because of lots of events I've been to and courses, Arts Council funded courses and teachers. Everyone's trying to tell you how to make money from your craft, which means you have to make something that sells, which restricts you. But I think somewhere in the back of my mind, I had something telling me this is how a novel would go. But when I just sit down to write short stories that aren't particularly for anything, and I'm delving into stuff that I really love to write about, those things felt like that's not something I could put out there, and yet that's what I should be writing. So that's quite a complex self-censorship, I think. I hope you like this video. I hope that it might have helped you in whatever you're working on in some way. And thank you so much for watching me waffle for such a long time. I really appreciate it. And I will see you soon.